you have to say, I want those Barbie shoes right now while inhaling and see if you could run out of breath before you said it.
Okay, show me an example.
It's easy because I'm an adult and I have larger lungs, but as a kid, it was really hard.
I don't get it.
I want those Barbie shoes right now. Like that.
I want those Barbie shoes right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
That would be, you made it look easy.
Yeah,
but but you weren't 8. So
well, you're 39 and it looked like you struggled.
Well, my voice cracked and then I tried to just run with it.
Try again. Go.
I want those Barbie shoes right now. See? It's not as easy as you think.
You're listening to the Laughing Couple podcast with your hosts, Brittany and Ryan Ostafy. Join them weekly as they discuss topics such as relationships, kids, sex, parenting, all unfiltered and all with a healthy dose of laughter. Please welcome your hosts, Brittany and Ryan Ostafy.
Couple things this week.
Yeah.
First,
I was afraid.
Let's do I love you and you're annoying because I have one. It's kind of bugging me.
Give her.
It's so small, but it's like actually annoying. So, when you wash up the kids' lunches, you, for whatever reason, will not wash those little toothpicks. You always leave them out. You're like, you know what? I'll wash everything, but fuck these toothpicks. Like, Cooper's little, like they're small little plastic toothpicks. You never wash them. You just leave them out there. And you're like, someone will do it, which is me. So that's annoying.
What I'm hearing is, what are you laughing at?
You're annoying? That's annoying?
No, what I'm hearing is an opportunity for you to acknowledge that I clean out the...
Why would I do that? That's part of your role as a parent.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't need to do that because you don't thank me for cleaning
There
the
were
lunches.
many episodes early on in our careers here where this was your problem. And I just want you to know that that's been fixed.
Well, it's not really fixed. It's like you were like, you know what? You're right. I have to step up in this role because we share these parenting tasks. So I don't need to acknowledge you for something that you should do anyways, because I do that and I don't need acknowledgement.
What do I need to wash a toothpick for? Just throw them out.
They're plastic and reusable.
Yeah. Well,
and there's little diggers on them. Okay. Anyways, or you could just like accept it and be like, you know what? You're right. I don't fucking do that.
Yeah.
Can you just be mindful of that?
I'll be mindful of that.
I always wash them.
I know for a fact I just kind of put them to the side.
Yeah, you do. You just leave them on the counter. That's mine.
That makes sense. Like I do 90% of the job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is like great,
but
also like
a lot.
What?
It's a lot.
Okay. You only make the lunches 2 days a week.
Brittany,
and I make them 3.
You only make the lunches 2 days a week.
I make the lunches 3 days a week.
Wednesday's a pizza day.
So I just say, here's your pizza. You get nothing else. Fuck you. No, they have more than just pizza. They're not us when we were young. If it was pizza day, that's all we got.
You throw snacks in on Wednesday.
And vegetables and fruit. I still make their lunches.
You don't make them.
Okay, fine. You can have Wednesdays then. You can have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Perfect. Since you don't have to make them, you might as well.
That backfired a little bit. But I'm just saying, like, we make lunches 2 days of the week each.
No,
like
we make them 3. And then on Fridays, you never clean up the lunch, and I always do it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Well,
okay. Anyways,
it makes sense that you do it on. That you do it on Friday because you have to make the lunch on Monday.
Yeah, correct.
So if you didn't do it on Friday, you'd have like mold on Monday.
Yeah.
Well, if I had Monday, I would probably do Friday.
Oh my God. Anyways, it's just about the toothpicks. I'd love if you could just be mindful of that. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome.
If you don't have one, I do want to talk about something, and I want to apologize for something unless you have.
Well, I have something, but I have a feeling that this is what you're about to apologize for. So
you're going to wait?
Enchanté.
Do you even know what that means?
This is you. Enchanté?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
I feel like we've had this conversation.
Not really.
I feel like we've had this conversation before where it's like, enchanté, but we actually don't know what it means.
I think it's like after you.
Like,
enchanté.
As you please. We have no idea.
Come as you are.
So this morning.
What does it mean? Do you know what it means, Jake?
Enchanté.
We should look it up.
We will. We should. While I'm telling this story, Jake, can you look up what enchanté means? It's going to be like the artist that did a song with Ja Rule.
Yeah, Ashanti. Yeah.
Okay. So this morning you had come in from your walk and I was sitting down having my coffee and reading. And you presented this idea, this business idea to me. And my apology needs to come from the fact that my immediate response was a negative. It wasn't a encouraging statement. I could have been supporter. You were supportive. You said, hey, I think this would be a really cool idea. Then proceeded to talk about it. My response came from me noticing or me projecting that I will no longer, like, I'm going to have less of you. So my instant response to be like, well, I don't think that, like, that might not work. Like, it went to a negative, came from a place of me being like, I already see so little of you with all of your business ventures. The idea of you doing something else is like not super appealing to me. So although I feel like, I mean, 100%, I could have been like, you know what, that sounds like a really cool idea. And I'm feeling a little apprehensive because we're already doing so much. That's definitely what I should have said. But what had come out, because my emotions were there, were something negative, just being like, I don't think that will work. And so I apologize for that, because that's not how I'm feeling. And as you were speaking to me about it, it is a really interesting idea. I just think that we have so much going on right now. And the thought of you taking on something else means your time is being pulled further away from me, further away from the kids. And that I don't like. So I apologize for my initial reaction. That's just probably where it was coming from.
This is my I love you and you're annoying.
I figured.
Yeah, because we talk about, it's not often what you say, but how you say it, and in the order in which you say it. Instead of saying what you said was, well, you haven't done any research on this, and who's to say that that doesn't already exist? It was all like, whoa, 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 whoa. Instead of saying, that's a really good idea, have you done any research to see if it already exists or what the market is or anything along those lines? Because everything that you were saying was valid. It was the order in which you said it that I was like, fuck you. I'm not going to bring this shit up with you anymore. And
this one conversation has made you be like, no,
no, because this is my I love you and you're annoying. We are not the same people. And this is a good thing in a marriage. I am like crazy optimistic and you are the opposite. I will look at the opportunity for what it could be, and you will look at the opportunity for what it won't be. And that's how we play this game. It's like, hey, here's what we should do. I don't think so. Someone asks me, hey, Ryan, can we do this? Or should we do this on the weekend? I'm like, yeah, we should do that on the weekend. And you're like, no.
Well,
and then you'll sit back and you'll be like, well, let me look at my calendar. I'm like, yeah, let me see if I can make it work in my calendar. You're like, no, let me check my calendar and get back to you. You're a no first. I'm a yes first. This is who we are. But I'm telling you, as someone who I come to you because you're a safe place for me to bounce things off of. You're no longer a safe place for me to bounce things off of if your first immediate reaction is fuck you.
Right.
So I'm hearing what you're saying right now. And what you're saying is my immediate reaction was, I'm not going to have enough of you. The kids aren't going to have enough of you. You're already stretched, paper thin. Your bandwidth is zero. And this is going to add to that.
And subsequently, that makes my bandwidth zero.
Right. So I get where you're positioning yourself in that conversation, but that's not the conversation we had.
So I do agree with you. That's why I said, like, I could have for sure worded it differently. I could have started with something supportive and then went into my, let's maybe look into this. I absolutely agree. I think we've had this conversation before about like, yes, man, no woman. And when you first brought that up to me, I consciously was so aware that I was doing that to the point where I made a solid effort not to do that. I think that how I see things is you are 100% like, yes, let's do it. You say yes. And then I get frustrated because I'm like, well, we can't just commit to that. Like, I would rather be like, let's figure it out first and then we can commit. You are like, commit and we'll make it work. Sometimes at the expense of other people. Like, if you say yes to something, then you're like, we'll figure it out, which typically falls on me. Or are like figuring out the plans. You're like, yes, we'll make it work. And then I'm like, okay, well, we have to make sure we have childcare. We have to make sure we do all this. I'm reaching out to the babysitters, which is why I always say, let's figure it out first before committing. I don't necessarily think that I'm a no person. I just think that I need to have all of my ducks in a row, making sure that we have childcare, making sure that we can get to wherever we're going in time. You are the type of person that are like, sometimes I think you overcommit to things Like you'll be like, yes, we can go to Wonderland in one day. Yes, we can also go to Sky Zone. Then we'll end off at the drive-in. Like you want to do all of these things. And I'm like, the kids don't have the bandwidth or the emotional capacity to do all of those things. Do you know what I mean? So like I feel like I'm more practical and you're more fantastical. Like you really want like, and which makes me sound like a really boring person, but I think I'm more.
Makes me sound like Harry Potter.
I just think that you.
Calazoom, whatever. What does he say?
That's definitely not Calazoom.
Big as a boom.
Yes.
What is he? What's his thing?
I don't know. Yeah, Lamgarium Leviosa or something like that.
Lamgarium Maribosa.
Yeah.
I've never seen a Harry Potter movie in my life.
Nailed it. Anyways, the point of this is I do apologize.
Whimsical.
I definitely could have had more support in that conversation. I just was coming from a place of like, we do not have the time or the bandwidth to take on something else. So I'm sorry.
My whole thing is like, I think I've got a pretty good track record of saying we want to do this and then it happening. So I understand that we're a partnership, right? We have a family, we've got kids. So yes, when I commit to something, it affects you and it affects the kids. And yes, there's a part of you that has to buy into or be enrolled into the possibilities of what it is that I said yes to, because there's a whole ecosystem around me that gets affected by those decisions. And I'm not downplaying those in any way, shape, or form. However, I do believe that when I say we're going to do this and it gets done, it gets done.
I know,
like
but
it's a decent track record.
I get it, but
So
I feel like
for me-
sometimes you don't give like the steps it takes to get things done. I think that it isn't always as easy as just saying like, yes, it's a commitment. Of course,
but it starts with an idea, and the idea is being shared with you. And that's the problem that I have is I come to you with an opportunity. I come to you with an idea, and I don't need it to go to what are the steps to implement it. I need to go to, does this make sense?
Yes. Okay.
Does it make sense? Is it a good idea? Yes. Now let's dissect it. Let's work our way backwards. But if I come to you with an idea and you're like, that's a shite idea, then it's a shite idea.
I never said it was a shit idea. I
You
said
didn't
I think
say it was
more,
a good idea.
I think there was
until
way
I was
more
like,
research
I'm
to be
done
done.
having this conversation.
I said I think there needs to be more research.
Of
You said that
course there
there's
needs to
no
be.
other company doing this, and I said I don't think that's true.
Of course, there's way more complexities. Jake, are you okay? Way more complexities to start a business, an e-commerce platform, and throw it out there and just it's not like, hey, I'm just going to go on ChatGPT and get a bunch of words and I'm going to go on another AI program and blah, 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 it's all done. And now I'm going to drop ship everything. I'm not suggesting that that's what it is. I'm saying first step, here's the thought that came into my mind. Let's have a conversation about it. Does it make sense? Yes, it does. Yes, Ryan, that's a really good idea. Have you thought about this, and this? No, I have not.
I think for me, because we're on the precipice of launching something very big that we've worked on for over a year. I think because there's still so much we need to do before that goes public. The idea of something else taking up, which would be a whole business on its own, is like ridiculous to me right now. I'm like, why would we don't have the energy to do that. So I'm like, so my first reaction is to be like, what? Like, let us make sure that we have all of this together before we move on to that. And we don't need to talk about this like for the whole episode. I apologize because you're right. I should have been more supportive in my first sentence, and we don't have the time to do that right now.
Granted.
Perfect.
Granted. All I needed to hear was, yeah, I think that's a great fucking idea. Let's do that a year from now.
For later.
And I would have been like, year from now. No problem.
You would have. Your memory's so stupid like
no
that.
Problem.
Okay,
problem.
So today we dropped off Cooper at school. And they have this little outdoor space where they get to play outside for the first hour. And so Cooper, we just happened yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before? We just so happened to be talking to somebody. So we were waiting out way longer than, we usually are. And so when he came outside, he was so stoked to see us. We were like, hey. So today when we dropped him off, he was like, Dad, can you wait again? Like, I want to see you. So we're like, sure. Then we're in the van waiting, not in a parking spot. We're just like in the middle of the road. And Cooper's class isn't out yet. So we're just in a van, tinted windows, staring at other people's children. Okay.
The window was down. They could see my face.
It was really awkward. I'm like,
creepy.
we got to move. So we're like, let's give it one more minute. And so we waited a significant amount of time. Finally, he comes out. We're like, yes, he's coming out. Fucking doesn't remember.
Doesn't remember.
Ryan was like, he's going to be so crushed if we leave. Like, we have to stay. We made a commitment. Comes out, doesn't give a fuck. He's like playing around. We're like, Cooper. He's no idea. He's like, oh, hey. I'm like,
in my mind,
cool.
In my mind, I just kept seeing, and you see this on TV commercials and TV shows all the time.
Where are they?
The kid comes out to go
know.
play basketball or some sport, and he looks out into the crowd to see his parents, and his parents aren't there. They're empty chairs that are sitting there for them that he or she reserved for their parents. It's crushing. And in my head, our 5-year-old son had it that when he came out of the classroom and went outside, we would be front and center. And I didn't want him to come outside and not see the van.
Right.
And so we waited in a very creepy way.
Yep.
And he did come out and he did not remember that we were waiting there, which is fine. But imagine he did and we weren't there.
Yes.
And I would have thought all day long, I would have thought he came out and was heartbroken.
I know why you did it.
I would have apologized at the end of the day and he would have been like, what are you talking about? But I didn't want to be that guy.
I know.
So I waited way longer than we needed to. And I was a little crushed. And here's the thing. This is why being a parent is so difficult. This is why it's so difficult. It's like warfare. Lindsay was crying the other day when she went and saw us because her little one, who's in his first year kindergarten,
would not let her go.
Will not let her go.
Yeah.
Like he's like a koala bear, just holding on to the bamboo tree.
And I remember Riley was like that.
Riley was like that. Riley, we sent her to daycare and the girl called us. Her name was Erica, beautiful woman, lovely, lovely human being, called me up and said, in my entire 20 years of doing this, when kids cry, they usually just stop.
Yeah.
Riley never stopped.
Yeah, she cried for like 5 hours one day.
She
was like, you need to come.
You got to come. You got to come and pick her up. She's not stopping crying. And then as soon as I showed up, boom, Riley stopped crying. And I remember the frustration that came with your kid not wanting to leave. And now that Riley, I drop her off and she gets in line, she stays with me and she's so sweet. She's like, I'm like, you want to hang out with your friends? She's like, no, I've got all day to hang out with my friends. I want to hang out with you for the next couple of minutes before the bell rings. Like that makes my heart feel so good. But when the bell does ring, she gets in line and doesn't look back.
Yeah.
Cooper gets in line and doesn't look back. And I'm like,
he looks back with me.
Oh, yeah, well, fuck.
Yeah, he's like, I love you better than dad.
He doesn't say that quietly. He flat out tells people that.
I'm just kidding. No, but he does. We always have like a thing.
Yeah, we do that too.
Yeah, and then we do that.
But then he just turns and goes.
Yeah,
right.
You're right. He doesn't.
And so like there's a part of me that still wishes not that they struggle, but that still wishes that they had that connection where they wanted to be with us. And that's what I said to Lindsay. I'm like, there will come a time, just like your older son, because I remember when her older son first got in, he was the exact same way. There was a time when he didn't want to let you go, and now he doesn't care.
Yeah.
This moment in time, it's painful. It's crushing, and like it crushes your soul.
And you're gonna want it later.
But then eventually they're just gonna be like later, and you're like, well, I'm still here.
But that's how I feel about so many things with parenting. And it's like, actually, Jake and I just said that stupid saying this morning, like, the days are long, but the years are short. I want to punch people in the face when they say that, because typically it's when somebody is complaining and they're at their last straw, their wits end. You see the exhaustion in a parent, and some older person who longs for those days says to them, like, the days are long, but the years are short. And they're coming from a good place. But when you're in the thick of it, that's the last thing you want to hear. You want to be validated in your exhaustion, and you're allowed that. And I know that we are going to be those people when we're older, and we're going to be like, man, I miss the kids coming out of bed and wanting to sleep with us. I miss them arguing like, can we please sleep with you tonight? Because we struggle with that. Like, we're like, we just want to get some sleep.
Mama, Dad, I want to fuck.
And that doesn't happen. That's not what we say.
You're right. It doesn't happen.
No, that's not what we say. Stop.
That's what
Anyways, there are going to be times where we're going to long for that. And so I struggle sometimes. And so do you. You're like, you know what? I'll sleep with them, because you're like, I know that there is going to be coming there. They'll become, wow.
Yep.
There's going to be a day.
Work it out.
There's going to be a day where they won't do that. And we're going to be like, holy shit. Like, the loss. Okay.
There was a
something.
thing that I saw, and I showed this to you, and it made you cry. And there was another thing that the other day I saw, and I'm like, I am
you're not sending that to me.
Not going to do it. Not going to do it. But now I'm thinking about it. It's making me emotional, so I'm not going to do it.
Oh my God, you have to tell me now.
There was a guy. I will, but I might break. So We might have to cut it. So this is not a breaker. This is not a breaker. This is just a normal thing. But the guy said, I don't remember my dad growing up as much as I want to remember my dad growing up. He said, but the one thing I do remember about my dad is every night he laid in my bed and talked to me.
Right.
Wanted to know what was going on in my day, wanted to know what the best thing that happened, what the worst thing was happened. And then when I think about, because obviously his dad's no longer
sent
here.
That to me.
He's like, all I remember is that my dad just laid in bed and talked to me.
You, yeah.
So every night I lay in bed and I talk to the kids. Now I already did that, but as soon as I heard that, I'm like, I'm never going to stop doing this. Now here's the thing that like killed me. So this girl,
before you do that, can I read this thing? Remember I told you,
read it.
Remember I sent you that one, like if you're,
this is your show, read it.
No, but it just goes along with the father thing. Yeah. Remember I read this to you? I saw this the other day on social media and I was like, oh my God. So it said, what if you met your father when he was a child? And then it says, in another universe, I meet my father when he is a child. We play catch in the woods. And as we play, he tells me he isn't allowed to cry, but sometimes the world hurts him and he doesn't know what to do with all that pain. So I give him the shoulder he needs to cry on, and he does. He does until the tears are done. Afterwards, I buy him ice cream and I listen to his laugh, the glowing, warm laugh of a child who knows he is safe. I wish someone could have done that for him, be a kind, safe space for the child he used to be. Would it have made a difference? And it was so powerful because our parents grew up in a space where their parents were like, children should be seen, not heard. If you're crying, get over it. Like that type of shit. Like, I think that like our grandparents, that's how they were raised. So like that generational, not trauma, but that generational parenting of like, figure it out, I don't give a fuck, was so powerful in like reading that. And like my dad has never been an emotional person. And just to like, you often forget that your parents were kids, right? So it was just so like, oh my God. And there's one about a mom. And I was like, I can't do this. I'm done for the day. That's
there's a fine line because I think to a certain degree we've gone too far on the soft side. And now this is just a personal opinion for me. I do believe we've gone too far on the soft side, but there's a nice, comfortable medium place where you can enforce authority and respect.
Oh, you mean like the gentle parenting and that stuff? Yeah.
Yeah. And now someone did write us on the gentle parenting side and said, just so you know, like what you guys do is gentle parenting.
Okay.
Which I thought was so nice and refreshing. She's like, just because you're being gentle doesn't mean you can't create some sort of consequence for their behavior.
Okay.
Gentle parenting isn't like sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops all the time. Everything is perfect. You are the best. So it was really nice when we had that conversation to have that come back to us. But I will say there is a happy medium in there. I look at my dad and I know my grandfather and I know the life that he lived, and he was a great man, but he was not who my father was for me.
Right.
And knowing my father now way more now as an adult and being able to have these conversations with him and have him open up about these conversations, you're absolutely right. And if I could go back in a time machine, I would definitely go back to when my dad was a kid. And I would, from an authoritative adult standpoint, have a different conversation with him.
Well, yeah, like my
It'd be
dad.
amazing. It'd be incredible.
I never felt like my dad was always like very easy to talk to. Like I never had a problem where I just think it's amazing coming from what he was probably raised. He was like, I'm not going to be this father, right? Like I didn't really know my grandfather, but I know that it was just a different time. So for him to have that space, because he probably didn't have it, and then provide that like openness for his kids it's amazing. There's
this, I don't know if it's real or if it's just, what do you call it when something's not real, but it makes sense, like a fable? What's that called?
I think it's like a fable. Fairy tale. I don't know.
Anyways, whatever you call it, fable, fairy tale, whatever, or if it's real life, there's a very famous thing where they brought two twins in. One was super, super successful and one was homeless.
Okay.
And they asked, like, you're talking two extremes. They were born and raised in the same household.
Was this like the experiment where they separated them?
Not quite, but that was the three twins.
Yeah. That's a disturbing story.
Not only is that a disturbing story, do you know how many examples of that exist?
It's
like
wild.
They're not the only ones that happened to.
Yeah.
There was a massive amount of experiments that were done to twins.
It goes back to nature versus nurture, right?
But anyways, it does it because here's what this study conducted was they asked the gentleman who was wildly successful, why are you successful? What do you attribute to your success? He said, well, my father was never around. When he was around, he was an alcoholic and was very abusive. So I said I never wanted to be that.
Right.
They then asked the other brother who was homeless, what do you contribute to your life? He said, well, my father was never home. When he was home, he was abusive and an alcoholic. So that's the only example I had to live.
Right.
Both of them were a choice.
Mm-hmm.
One never wanted to be that, and one only knew that to be true.
It's wild.
And so you look at like the situation you just mentioned about your father, it takes something. And that's why we call people in our lives, in our family, game changers,
Mm-hmm.
people who had an outcome and changed it. And now we have the life that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
My great grandfather decided that he was going to leave the Ukraine to avoid the Russian Revolution.
Right.
And because of that choice, I'm here today.
Mm-hmm.
He's a game changer. He looked at his scenario and said, this is fucked up. I'm going to change this because I don't want this for my family. It takes something extraordinary to be that person, to be like, I'm just going to do something uniquely different. It's amazing. So let's go back to the thing that choked me up that I was going to send to you.
Okay.
So it's this video and it's a girl and she's got this, like, it's this tattoo and you don't really know what it is. It's on her wrist. And she said,
the hug?
no, it's not the hug.
Oh, I guess I'll just go fuck myself then.
I'll just try to finish the story because you haven't seen it. So
Sorry.
oh my God.
I thought I was going to be right.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Is it Jamiroquai? No, it's not. It's not Thursday either. And it has nothing to do with the number 47.
Okay.
So it's a
Sorry.
tattoo on her wrist. And she said, people told me never get a tattoo. You'll always regret it. And then she says, but every time I look at my wrist, I think of you. And you realize that it's a fishing lure.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden you see all of these videos of her with her grandfather fishing. He's taking her out on the little pontoon boat. And then you see him with his arm wrapped around her. And she's got like 20, 30, 40 pictures of her and her grandfather fishing together. And then at the very end, you see her release this fish into the water. And you see that's where the whole connection comes in because you get to see the tattoo again. You realize it's a fishing lure. It was so emotional to me because
probably it's sad music too.
Of course it was sad music. They know
Kills
how to,
me every
they know how to
time.
really fuck with your emotions,
Yeah.
this Instagram thing. But what blew my mind and what like really brought this whole thing to light for me is our parents have always been our parents. So 39 years of age, I've known my parents for 39 years. They'll always be my parents. And at one point in time in their lives, they're not going to be here anymore. And I know this, but I had whatever time plus 39 years with my parents. Our kids don't get that time. They really don't get that time. They get a millisecond of your parents' lives. If you're lucky, they get that time with them. And I think about like my grandfather. I lost my grandfather when I was 16 years of age, but my grandfather was always old to me. He was an old man. He was at 16, he died at 73. He was not an old man, but because in my head, he was my grandfather, he was always old. I never got to know my grandfather the way that my dad did, the way that my mom got to know her parents. And it's just like when I look at my parents and I look at your parents who are like now coming closer into the 70s, right? Mid 60s to 70s. The time is not what we think it is. Right. We think of it as like, I've had 39 years with them, but our kids, it's going to be literally a blink.
I know.
It's going to be a blink. And the time that you have, it's not supposed to be a sad episode.
I know.
The time that the kids have with their grandparents is so important and often overlooked.
And like you said, like we're pretty grateful because not a lot of people have that opportunity. And like, even if they're alive, but then if they are alive, not every grandparent is as involved as our parents are. So
Correct.
We're very, very grateful. Okay. So I want to actually tell you about this book I'm reading because I think that it would be an interesting conversation because I'm going to ask like if you would do it. So spoiler alert, this isn't for my book club. It's just a book that I was recommended to read. So it's called The Last One and it's by Will Dean or Will Dean, whatever. So here's the concept. Okay. And this is a full spoiler alert. So if you want to read this book, just don't listen to me right now, but I want to talk about it so bad. So
by Herb Dean.
I think it's by Will Dean. Like, I just want to make sure that, it's Will Dean. Okay. The Last One. So here's the concept. So this woman is going on a cruise. Okay. She's in her late 40s, almost 50.
Carnival cruise?
No, it's wild. It's called the Atlantica.
Oh,
So it's super trippy because we just booked a cruise and I'm like, oh my God, and like they're going through like the muster stations, like everything. So I was like, oh, I know all of this. Anyways, so she's going on this cruise.
we are cruisers.
She's going on this
Veterans.
cruise with her new partner. Okay. So they don't know each other very long. I think she said it's their 13th date. So they go on this cruise. There's like thousands of people on this cruise. They go to sleep. She wakes up. No one is on the boat. No staff, no people. Like she's alone and it's sailing in the middle of the ocean. And she's like, what the fuck is happening? And so she's freaking out at first. I mean, you go through like the regular emotions, like, oh, maybe they've docked and I was asleep. Like you're trying to figure out a logical explanation about like where the fuck everybody is. So finally she sees another person like down in the boiler room. She ends up meeting 3 other people on the boat who also have no idea what the hell is happening. So it's really strange. They're starving. They have food for like the first day. And then all of the like locked doors that prevent the ship from like sinking or whatever close. And all of the food is on those floors and they cannot get to them. So they're in pure survival mode. There's no water. Like they're freaking out. And then they finally realize because there is a screen and this woman comes on and tells them that they're in a game show. And the whole premise is basically like this show is being streamed.
It's so fucked. 13th date.
It's really fucked up.
I guarantee they're not together anymore.
She's not with him. Like he's gone. Like it's her and these 3 other people that she doesn't know.
No, I know, but he brought her on this ship.
Yeah, but you don't know who's involved in what. Killer. You don't know who's involved in what. So
I don't trust that guy.
There's a person that comes on and they say to them like, this is a show and there will be one winner at the very end. You'll have 4 challenges. You each have to do one. At the very end, you'll win $5 million. You can leave at any time. You don't have to do the challenges, but you forfeit your.
Where do they go?
Like they say, if you want to leave, we'll come pick you up.
Oh, okay.
That's what they say.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And so then they start to do the challenges and the first one is like fine. And then they start to get really dark. Okay. And like life or death dark. And they eventually realize that this show isn't being streamed on like, because when the person comes and tells them that it's being like broadcast, because there's cameras all over the ship, they're like, oh, what the fuck? Like, because people are voting and it's very much Big Brother. But then they realize that this is like a subscription service on like the dark web that people are paying essentially to like watch them die. So it's trippy because now they realize that they can't actually get off the boat. Like people are dying and they don't care. My question for you is, if you were on this boat, you woke up, right? And there's 3 other people that you figured out.
I'm the captain of this ship.
Would you, if they told you you can compete for $5 million, you just have to pick one of the challenges. You don't know what the challenge is. You just pick, I think they said mind, water, air, body. Like you have to pick one of those.
Water.
Would you do it? Or would you be like, deuces, I'm leaving?
Of course I would.
Really? After 4 days of starvation and no water, you'd be like, yeah, I probably trust these people.
Of course I would.
Interesting.
Yeah. Because why would I not? Like to think about it, there's thousands of people on a ship plus the crew. And then all of a sudden, all of them are not. That's an extraordinary amount of effort that would go into it. Why would I believe it not to be true?
I just think it's crazy because
there's a lot of people that have to be involved in that for me to wake up and there only be 4 people on the ship. I would blindly, faithfully participate in a $5 million contest.
Yeah. But then once you realize,
thank God,
once you realize that it wasn't like legit and it was like being broadcast,
how would I know?
You would, well, I'm not going to ruin the book, but there's a lot of like signs that it's not all what they seem.
Well, I'm sure at some point in time I would be like questioning it, but at the beginning I'd be like, thank the Lord, I'm not going to die here.
Really? Because I don't know if I would be like with 3 other people, I have to compete. Everything's gone. I haven't eaten in 2-3 days. I would be like, I want to see my kids. And I'm also trusting this random person to tell me that, like, for me, I'm like, how would they get you and the kids out of the room without waking me up? And like, what would you do? You'd be like, the fuck, I'm leaving her? Like, no way. Well, that's because I've not done the book yet.
If you and the kids weren't there, I would assume that you and the kids were
part of it.
Were well aware of it.
I know, but I
not only that, I'd look at it.
But you would believe that I'd be like, yeah, leave him. He'll figure it out. Because
Yes.
I would never do that.
Well, okay, fine, but this is a book. It's not real life.
I know, but I just think that you
And
should
asked
know
me a
me.
hypothetical question, and the hypothetical answer is there's only 4 people on this ship, and I have a 1 in 4 chance of winning $5 million. I'd look at my competition, I'd be like, I choose water.
Yeah, it's a bad one.
Is it?
Yeah.
I just like swimming.
Yeah, she almost dies.
Oh, she chose water too?
Yeah.
Oh, she's my people.
Yeah. She
Yeah.
almost dies. It's really scary.
Well, Herb Dean, thank you for writing
It's
this
not
book.
Herb Dean. It's Will Dean.
Yeah.
It's not Herb Dean.
Herb
I never
Dean
said
is a
Herb
referee
Dean.
in the UFC. Yeah.
Anyways, the book is wild. I didn't I'm not going to reveal everything, but it's a trip because it really starts to talk about the dark web and the pull of people consuming content that is like reality. And because they're like, we didn't consent to this, but the person's like, well, you did. Like when you signed your waiver or whatever in small print, it says like, by signing this, you agree to any of the actions or challenges. I don't think they use the word challenge that the crew deems fit for entertainment. And you obviously don't read the entire contract, but it was just a very interesting concept because I don't read half of the shit that I sign for work. Like I'm just like, yeah, it's probably true. And then on top of that, it really dives into how toxic like social media and like consuming people's lives and content is because they really talk about the deep dark web. Like
That's like the movie Hostel.
well, that's it. Cause they're like, this is literally a ploy to try to mainstream like the dark, like more in acceptance. Like you would really dive into this because it's true. They're trying to say like, let's not make the dark web as like unaccessible.
Yeah, like we can make it like the hard to see web.
Yeah.
The dim lit
Yeah, the
web.
dim lit web. It's no
Yeah.
longer the dark
It's like
web.
the keg.
Mhm.
Steakhouse
Oh my
and bar.
God. You can't see what you're eating in that restaurant.
But
It's
tastes
so dark.
so good.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a very interesting book. So if you're in the need for a thriller, Herb Dean,
Herb Dean.
Will Dean.
Fighter ready. Fighter ready.
Anyways,
Let's go.
I don't think we even have time for any of my questions. I had so many other ones.
Got a question for you. Better answer now.
This was such a random
Speaking
episode.
of which, that was Backstreet Boys.
Yeah.
NSYNC's coming back. You
Yeah.
hear that?
No, like
Yeah,
as a
NSYNC.
full band.
They're coming back for a
All
tour.
of them.
Not only that, but here
Five
I
of
feel,
them?
I feel bad. All 5 of them, including
Well, it's usually not
JT.
Justin. Usually JT's like, nah,
JT's in.
I'm
They're
done.
doing a full comeback, and guess who else is doing a full comeback?
Who?
98 Degrees.
You know, I
Nick Lachey and his brother Lachey.
what?
S Club 7.
Club. Are they
S
coming
Club
back?
7.
Stop.
Ain't no party like an S Club
I
party.
watched that show religiously. That show was so good.
Yeah, it was.
But
But
Nick Lachey, people don't like him anymore.
Well, because people are now starting to watch the episodes of him and Jessica,
Oh,
and they're
100%.
recognizing that he was very toxic in those
Absolutely.
situations.
And then back when social
Almost
media portrayed
narcissistic.
her, they were like, of
'Cause she's
course
the
she
dummy.
was. She was an idiot.
Yeah.
And so people looked at her like Jessica Simpson is so stupid. And now social media is like a little bit more woke when people are watching and consuming these episodes of reality TV. Back when reality TV was so different, it's wild to see some of them. Like
No.
I saw a whole bunch of them on TikTok. I'm
I
like,
will
what
say-
an asshole.
I will say, I don't know Nick Lachey, and I'm sure he's not an asshole. The problem with maybe he is. Maybe he
Who
is.
knows?
The problem with reality TV shows is you're being filmed 24/7,
Mm-hmm.
24/7.
You're going to have
and you're getting one episode
So
per
true.
week that is a 30-minute clip of the entire 7 days, 24 hours.
it's
And
longer than
it's
that.
however they wanted to portray you.
For sure.
You look at like The Bachelor, Bachelorette, and there's a new one here that's coming out. And we talked about this with Caitlin Bristow.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's a narrative that
Yeah.
they think the TV audience is going to like,
Right.
and they drive that narrative home. Issues that aren't really issues become massive issues
Absolutely.
because they want you to like and or not like somebody. No TV show could exist for more than one season where everybody
In
is
reality
just
TV.
in a reality TV where there's no drama.
Well, have you
You
seen
remember the Jonas Brother ones?
Not really.
Remember they tried to force
Yeah, the
trauma?
issues where it was just like it's
like,
not
oh my
happening.
God, oh my God, oh my God, your dad. Your dad
He's
is
mowing
mowing
the
the lawn
lawn.
without a t-shirt on.
This is so embarrassing. And like, that was the drama of the episode.
I'm like, this is why this show's not going to last.
But you know
and
what
I like
else?
the Jonas Brothers. I think they're great.
What is being ripped apart right now too, and rightly so, is America's Next Top Model. Like how insanely toxic Tyra Banks was.
Oh God.
Holy fuck. And I remember watching this show religiously in my dorm room in university. Like we would all get together and watch in like the hub, and all of the girls would watch. And we were looking at these girls like, oh my God, like she's not going to make it. Why doesn't she just accept the challenge? Where they were like, you need to cut your hair. We're going to shave your head. You need to lose this much weight. You look like, and then she's rating them at the end with their photo, and she's just ripping them apart. Confidence.
Because that's what the industry was
It
like.
was. And
Probably
if
still is.
anybody put any, like, if they talked
Nobody's asking
back
to
or
model.
whatever, they would be like, well, you're going home. There's actually a girl who is on TikTok and was painted like difficult, or being like that one on the show that was a little bit like rebellious towards Tyra. And I remember being like, everyone hated her. She has fully come out now and has shared so much behind the scenes, because I think it's a 7-year contract or whatever. You're not allowed to speak about whatever was on the show. So she's like full blown, like said
Have to be
everything.
longer than 7 years.
But one of them was because she was going through something in her family, like something deeply personal. And Tyra had brought her out on her show to talk like about her experience. And her management specifically was like, you cannot ask about whatever it was. I think her father had died, or it was like a drug problem. I honestly don't remember. And the first thing Tyra says, and she was like, she knew that she pulled that pain for me specifically for TV. And it was so gross.
Yeah.
I'm
you
like,
know, one of my favorite thing about that TV
God.
show, because I used to watch that show with my sister Michelle all the time. What we used to do is, do you remember when the intro was coming up, you saw all the models walk, and at the very end, you saw all the models displayed at the same time.
Yeah.
And the ones that got kicked off vanished.
Right.
And
They disappeared.
They disappeared. My sister and I used to play a game where we would be like, she's gone. She's gone. She's still there. She's gone. She's gone. Trying to
like at the
remember
beginning, who
trying
was
to
gone?
remember who was gone, who, like, where they would disappear. Anyways,
That's a really fun game.
that was one time my sister and I played a game. It was called I Want Those Barbie Shoes Right Now. And we tried.
What?
Yeah, this is a true story. And so we tried to inhale, like, and then you have to say, I want those Barbie shoes right now, while inhaling, and see if you could run out of breath before you'd said it.
Okay, show me an example.
It's easy because I'm an adult and I have larger lungs, but as
Okay.
a kid, it was really hard.
What,
It was
I
like,
don't get
I
it.
want those Barbie shoes right now. Like
I don't
that.
get it. I want those Barbie shoes right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
That would be, you made it look easy.
Yeah.
But
I was.
but you weren't 8. So
Well, you're 39 and it looked like you struggled.
well, my voice cracked and then I tried to
Try
just run with
again. Try
it.
again. Go.
I want those Barbie shoes right now. See? It's not as easy as you think. Anyways.
It's pretty easy.
Okay, well, ask your 8-year-olds to do it. It's
I will.
hard.
This has
It's
been
hard.
such a
Anyways,
random episode.
I
I
love
hope you
you,
guys
Michelle.
have a wonderful rest of your week.
Yeah. What do we even talk about on
I
this
honestly
episode?
don't know.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.
Cause aside from my soul,